Hello and welcome to the Jeff Finch Experiment. Nick was almost ready to pounce and hit me up before I did the intro because he likes to do that.
Just because I did it once.
He did do it once, and then he brings it up like every time now. So,
if you have a dream where you're sucking a dick, does that make you gay?
Joe Rogan has this thing where, like, he talks about how people who are really anti-gay, like, you know, like people who just think that homosexuals are the devil, and a lot of it's like the religious right. But he says, you know why they don't like it? They're secretly afraid that dicks are delicious. He's so right. Like, I mean, I don't honestly think that a dick's delicious, but I also don't hate gay people either. So I thought that was a really funny take on it. Joe Rogan's fantastic. He's pretty good.
Silly faggot.
He was just in
for dicks.
There you go. He was just in Columbus doing a show the other night. I wish I could have went. That's probably the closest he'll ever come to here, because I don't think he ever goes to Pittsburgh or anything. But he's like, I haven't seen too much of his stand-up, but his podcast is tops. And you would love it, Nick, because he's like us. He likes to hunt and fish. He likes to eat meat. He's very worldly. He knows a lot, and he can talk all day and all night. And he has this podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, it's called. And the only thing
is that why you wanted to call it the experiment?
That was one thing, actually, yeah, because like I didn't want to, because I kind of, to be honest, I kind of copied.
Copyright?
Yeah, well, not just that, but like I kind of copied his style, like the just general discussion, as opposed to doing like proposed segments and shit like most podcasts do. But his is so good, like I just prefer general talking. Like I like to just have a conversation and not do like a segment here or there. I'm okay with it once in a while. Like you and I and Joe did the movie thing recently. The have you seen the movie segment that we did on the last podcast the three of us did together here? That turned out great, and I got a lot of positive feedback on that. Like I had a few friends say they really liked that. But I prefer just general discussion, you know, and just kind of like letting things roll off the tongue and talk and all that. And that's what you're good at too. That's why I always have you on as a guest, because you're good at that stuff.
Oh yeah, until I ruin the intro. Whenever I burst your bubble.
Well, you know, whatever.
Kill your thunder. Rain on your parade.
Thunder. So, anyway, you know, one thing I wanted to talk about was a little bit about my show in general. I just recently started doing this little thing. I'm calling it 5 with Finch. It's a 5-minute thing with me. I did it a little bit on my Facebook Live every once in a while. Like, if something came up, I would just jump on my phone and record myself talking for 5 minutes. And I got a lot of positive reviews. People really liked it when I did it then.
You'd be surprised what he can get done in 5 minutes.
Yeah, really. Ask my wife. Ask my wife what I can do twice in 5 minutes. We'll just leave it at that. But, you know, when it comes to that, and you were pretty cool about it. You said you kind of liked the idea.
Yes.
The thing I liked about it, and our friend Pat actually mentioned it to me too, like, my videos normally run, you know, close to an hour, which is good and great, and I have been getting decent views. Most of my videos are up over 30 views, a few of them are over 40 views. But the 5-minute thing I did yesterday already had like 15 views in maybe 6 hours since I've released it. So, you know, people look for that quick video. People don't like to sit and listen to a video for an hour.
Because people have short attention spans.
Not only that, but people have stuff to do. And it also doesn't help that I don't have this released on anything except for YouTube. You know, so like I don't have it on Podbean or iTunes or Google Play where people can download it to their phones and listen to it in their car. Most people aren't going to queue up a YouTube video and play it in the car.
And use up all my data.
And use all your data, right. So, you know, I can submit this to iTunes and whatnot, but the first thing I would need is a host. I need a website that'll host my MP3s, and that costs money. And I've already got too much money tied up in my equipment. I don't want to spend any more. It's not super expensive. I think, like, well, there's two things holding me back. First and foremost, yeah, I mean, it costs money. I think it's like $15 or $20 a month for like the cheaper plans, but they only hold like 50 megabytes. Like you can only upload 50 megabytes a month. Most of my podcasts, just one hour podcast is more than 50 megabytes. Most of my podcasts are 200 to 300 megabytes.
If you don't think he spends a lot of money on his equipment, you should look at his computer chair he's working with.
Yeah, it's all busted up.
It's got one arm on it. That's it. No back.
Yeah, I broke it the other day because I'm fat, and I was leaning one way, and it broke, so I had to go buy a new chair. And I bought the absolute cheapest computer chair they had at Staples. It's a nice chair, though. It works good. It's upstairs. It's not here, but...
That's how good it is.
Yeah, it's so good. It gets to live in the computer.
Brought downstairs.
Literally everything down here is like the hand-me-downs, like all of our good shit. Like my good electronics, my good TV, my good sound systems, they're all upstairs. All
Oh, your
my-
mixer is on a $3 board held together with 2 rubber bands.
Yeah, but that thing actually works pretty well. Works very well, actually. So anyway, back to the 5-minute thing. Like, I just thought it would be an easy way to get more views, and to also, like, to just rant a little bit, because most of the time we do these full podcasts, we don't rant, we chat.
Or digress.
Or digress, or,
We
you
need
know,
a little buzzer or something. He's like, warning, warning, digression.
right, like a little, almost like the applause light that you see, like, at, like, TV shows, but it would say something else, like digressing, or wrap it up. That would be, yeah, there you go. It'd be wrap it up, and then you just hit the button, and it lets me know I better change the subject, or else Nick's gonna fall asleep on me.
Or you get the voice of, have Joe record or whatever. It's like, you're digressing.
You're digressing.
Digressing.
You're digressing.
Digressing.
You're digressing.
Digressing.
It just gets more and more annoying. So I just got off the phone with our friend Matt. Matt is and anybody who's listened to my podcast before knows who Matt is. He has his own podcast. It's called Nerd Talk Radio. Him and his 2 friends, Canadian. They live about 1,500 miles northeast of here in...
So right around the corner.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah. In the worldly view, right around the corner. We're on the same continent. Let's put it that way. He's Canadian, obviously. He literally called me right before I hit the record button, and him and his 2 boys were just recording their podcast tonight, and they're like hammered drunk.
2 boys.
His 2 buddies.
Okay, I was gonna
not
say.
sons. Yeah, they're his boys. His boys with a Z at the end.
Oh.
Finger
okay.
quotes.
No, it's a Boiz. Maybe that's how they pronounce. No, how they spell it in Canada.
Well, they are Canadian, so
In Canadianese.
they're weird. Yeah, they. What would you call their brand of English? Canuckish.
Canuckian?
Canadish.
Canuckian.
Canuckian. That's funny.
Canadianese. Well, actually, this time they were drinking, so it would be fluent drunkenese.
One of the Canadian guys I used to talk to on the website
Damn
and
it, now
forum
who is that?
I met my other Canadian friends. My phone is going off. That's probably Matt. Yeah, it is Matt. That's funny.
Oh. I think he knows we're making fun of him.
Well,
What?
he's blowing me up.
Damn it, I told you not to call
Well, I asked him to, yeah, there you go. I asked him to send me pictures of his new mixer, or his old mixer that he acquired, and because I wanted to,
About coming to get you?
no, I just wanted to offer him some advice on audio equipment, because I'm not a professional by any stretch, but I do and have been doing a lot of research, and told him I'd offer him all the information I can. If he shows me and tells me what he has, I would try to offer him as much help. And I think he just doesn't have the time to do the kind of the YouTubing that I like to do. So, but anyway, he called and we were talking about getting together and recording. He and I recorded over the phone. I just burped. Cut that.
Yeah, how do you do that? How'd you manage to do that?
He and I recorded over the phone a couple of weeks ago, and it turned out pretty well. And you listened to it, right? Did you listen to the whole thing? Because I released it as a podcast.
I didn't listen to it. But how did you record that?
It was really cool. Basically, what I do.
You said that was over Facebook Messenger?
Yeah. First things first, you need. You have to have a program that does phone over the internet. Most popular is Skype, obviously. But we did it through Facebook Messenger, mostly because neither him nor I have Skype setups. You can easily download it and set it up. We just don't use it. But we talk all the time. Like, I talk to him almost every day on Facebook Messenger. And Facebook Messenger has a phone service now where you can make a call. In fact, he just called me on my cell phone before we started recording from Facebook Messenger. Him and his buddies were recording tonight, so they got to chat and they mentioned me and they were like, "Let's call Finch," in my best Canadian accent.
Well, what's the difference between, I suppose, it's just them calling your phone?
Well, what it is...
Or is there any advantage to it?
Well, whenever we were doing that, I had him call me on my computer. And basically, just think of it this way. If he rings Facebook Messenger on mine, let's say I have both my computer browser up and my phone up, it would ring both items.
You're shaking the table.
I'm shaking the table. I didn't hear it make any noise. Anyway, it would ring both items. So I could pick it up with either one. So what I did was I set up what's called a mix minus. It's a setup. You have to have a mixer to do it and a computer that's decent. And my laptop's pretty decent. So basically I run my mixer. I run the effects port out from the mixer to the computer, the microphone in on the computer, and then run the speaker or the headphone jack from the computer back into the mixer on one of the channels. So that's the mix part. My phone keeps vibrating. It's making all kinds of... Set it on the floor there. You won't hear it. So anyway, yeah, that's... And then what I do is I can set it up so that anything that goes into the mixer, multiple microphones, sound effect board, like a phone or whatever, anything I'm running into the mixer, I can channel it into my computer so he can hear everything. That's what's really cool about it is you and I could talk into our microphones like we are right now, and he would hear it with great clarity. And then anything he says filters out of the headphone jack of my computer back into the mixer so that we can hear him. That's how it works.
Okay, so do you have to do any kind of like sound check or whatever beforehand?
I mean, yeah.
Just do a tiny little tweaking?
Yeah, kind of what we did, because that night that he and I did that was the very first time I ever did a recording over the phone, and I knew how to hook it up, but I didn't know how to tweak it, like you say. So we had to mess with it. Basically, we did a couple of recordings. He called me, I set it up, I hit the record button on my recorder, and, we would talk for maybe 2 minutes, like you and I usually do when we record. We'll talk for a minute, and then we'll listen to it real quick just to make sure the levels sound good, and then play it back, play it black, paint it black. There you go. But and then what's also nice is I'm able to filter the recorder through the computer as well, so he was able to hear it. So I adjusted the levels then, and then we talked again, did it again, recorded for like a minute, sounded good, and then we went live. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. We went and actually went on air. So we started recording. We recorded about an hour and 20 minutes. Actually, probably closer to an hour and a half. I ended up cutting like 10 minutes out of it. Just like, because we had basically the kind of tech speak you and I are having right now, I was having with him during that recording. And it was good, but it wasn't going with like the other talks we were having. So I cut it out. And then I was able to just send him the audio file because it saves as a WAV file. I put it on my computer, send it to him through Dropbox so he has a copy of it. And then I edited it and released it, a couple days later. So it sounds complicated, but it's really easy. You're just making an effects loop is essentially what I'm doing. I'm just running an effects loop through my mixer, through my computer, back to the mixer, and then recording it. His issue is on his end, he wants to have us, you, me, and especially Joe, because he and Joe, I think, they're very much alike. I wanted to have us.
Is he part of the group? The threesome?
Our Joe, Statzer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he has.
So us three and he's three.
Pretty much, yeah. We wanted to do like a panel discussion.
Your boys and his boys.
Exactly. And, we wanted to do kind of like, just a panel conversation about a few different things. We talked about talking about Stranger Things, which is a show on Netflix that we've all watched.
I'm out.
You should watch it. It's fantastic. But it's a recent show. It just came out a couple months ago. We all watched it. We love it. We want to talk about it so bad. And those guys are big time nerds. It's their kind of thing. And we wanted to record us talking about that show for his podcast, for the Nerd Talk Radio. His podcast is geared towards that sort of speak, whereas mine, once again, is more general. Although I will talk about that show. Like if me and Joe got together, we've seen it. I'd love to talk about it with him too. But we wanted to do something for his show and figure out how he could record it on his end because he doesn't have the kind of equipment I have. But he's sending me pictures of all his stuff, and I'm going to try to help him.
Well, what kind of response does he get? Like views? What his wide? About
the same as mine.
Same as yours.
He has a few more videos than I do. I think when I was just talking to him on the phone, he told me they just recorded episode 15. I think the episode they just released last night was episode 12.
Okay.
They get together and they usually record, I want to say they record 2 or 3 episodes together per session, and then they release them usually on Fridays. Me, on the other hand, we do record multiple sessions at times.
Yeah, like you and I will do 2.
Yeah, we've done a couple
of times.
A couple of times. I usually release them ASAP. Mostly because I'm impatient. I just like to sit. I like to work on them. I like to edit them. And then when they're done, I don't want to just sit on them. I want to get them out. That's one thing that I should probably work on. I should probably work on doing it like more on a schedule where I
a little more self-control.
Like Sundays I release or something like that. So it'll work out this time because tomorrow's Sunday and I will release this tomorrow.
Yeah, instead of Sunday being the day of worshiping, be the day of editing.
Yeah, there you go. Well, worshiping is editing. I mean, I'm worshiping my computer to please allow me to.
No, you're worshiping your own voice.
That too.
False idols.
I can't help it. We're directly breaking the 10 commandments, or one of the commandments.
I'll bring you 15. 10 commandments.
What was that on?
History of the World Part 1.
History of the World Part 1. Yep. Mel Brooks. Yep. I knew I seen that somewhere. For some reason, I thought Family Guy. They might have.
Probably.
They might have done
Family
it.
Guy.
Yeah.
They've mimicked everything.
Family Guy rips everything off. Everything. But they always do it. They do it as parody. I mean, that's saying Family Guy is ripping somebody off is like saying Al Yankovic is ripping somebody off because it's a parody.
It's an ultimate compliment. That's how you've made it.
That's how I think so too.
You're iconic. I should say.
There you go. Like Nirvana. who just recently, or we are recently celebrating the 25th anniversary of Nirvana's Nevermind release. Just, I think September 24th was the 25th anniversary.
I think it was the 23rd, actually.
Maybe it was the 23rd.
Somewhere in the 20 teens.
Yeah, it was September 20-something. You know, I've talked a lot about that album, and I'm actually have one of my 5-minute videos that I recorded yesterday. It's going to be my next 5-minute video to release. I will release it tomorrow. It's about Nevermind. But it's just a few minutes, obviously. I also did an extended Facebook live video, I want to say like an hour and a half, on just that album. But in that, I broke it down song for song.
By song.
And
I don't know if you mentioned Endless Nameless, though, the hidden track.
Technically, that wasn't on Nevermind. It was on...
No, I think I mentioned that during your live podcast.
That was a while ago, but you may have. That was the secret track on later releases of it, I believe. If you had... I might be wrong about this. If you bought Nevermind within the first couple years that it was released, which I did... You didn't have Endless Nameless.
I think I do recall hearing that.
So my copy of Nevermind does not have it, and I didn't know that for years.
Well, one thing that sucks is I think Endless Nameless is something like 12 or 17 minutes into or after the end of Something in the Way.
Whenever I first found out that was supposed to be on as a track, as a hidden track, I specifically remember pumping my CD player all the way to track 12, which is Something in the Way, listening to that song, because it's like a 3-minute song, and waiting, hoping that it would eventually lead to the track. Well, it didn't. As soon as Something in the Way is, the CD just stops and restarts again. Back it Smells Like Teen Spirit.
No, what about Marilyn Manson, Antichrist Superstar?
Yeah, it's like some weird noise for like 10 minutes or something, right?
Well, what's weird is if you look at the track listing, it goes, I think there's 16 or 17 tracks.
I want to say 16 tracks.
Then it goes to track 18, then 19, then 20. Each second is a different track, so it's like, so where's this hidden track?
Oh, is that
there
what
is not. It goes all the way up to 99.
That's right.
And then it starts up whatever the first song is.
The last song on that album is Man That You Fear, which it wasn't a hit, but it was released as a single, and it had a really weird, like a Western type video, if I remember correctly. It's a good tune.
My sister had that CD. That was one of the things I used to do, is I would go up in her... She would take my shirts and wear them. I would go upstairs and I would steal the CDs and listen to them. That's how I got into bands like Tool, Rage Against the Machine... I think I remember listening to No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom a few times.
I have that album. The Antichrist Superstar was the breakout album for Manson. Yeah, had The Beautiful People. That was the big hit. Tourniquet was on that. Man That You Fear. There was one we were actually talking about that album last night at work with a couple guys who are huge Manson fans, and there was a couple other a couple songs we were talking about, but I honestly can't remember what they were called. That being said, I used to have that CD, and it's one of the ones that have gone missing over the years. I don't have it anymore. I was never like a huge Marilyn Manson fan anyway. I think I only had 3 of his CDs, and 2 of them are missing. The only one I still have is Smells Like Children. That was the release before Antichrist. It had the cover of Sweet Dreams.
Okay, yeah.
Which is fantastic. It's so much better than the Eurythmics version, in my opinion.
What?
Yeah, I can't stand that Eurythmics version of that song. Of course,
Annie Lennox.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm pretty sure I heard that song before I ever heard the Annie Lennox Eurythmics version. That came out in the early 80s. Yeah, 83, 84, something like that. But I had never heard that song, and one day I turned on MTV, and, you know, you figure I'm probably like 10 years old. I turned on MTV, and that video for Sweet... I almost said Smells Like Children, and then I almost said Sweet Child of Mine. Sweet Dreams.
Sweet Children, Child of Mine.
Sweet Children of Dreams Lunchbox, which was an even older Manson tune or album. I can't remember if it's a... Lunchbox was a
Sweet
Manson
Children
album.
of Lunchboxes.
I think Lunchbox was the very
Sweet
first...
Children in Lunchboxes.
Oh, yeah, with some Jell-O and some Lunchables. I think...
They're delicious.
I think Lunchbox was Manson's first album. It was like a minor release. It had one song on it called Get Your Gun, which had a video, and it was
that was the name of the restaurant Roseanne worked at.
Yeah, the Lunchbox, right. With the Martin Mull was her boss, right?
I don't know about that, but I remember her son in the show is the one who came up with the name for the restaurant.
Yeah, I think that was you're right. That is the name of the restaurant, but that wasn't because let me think of Roseanne. It's been a long time since I've really watched that show. I think she started working there with, remember Crystal was her one friend, the blonde lady with the southern accent. Might not have been southern, but it was definitely different than Detroit or whatever. And then her other friend, who was played by that comedian, the real tall lady. She's a lesbian. I can't think of her name. But yeah, and then their boss was Martin Mull. He was their boss. I think his name was, the hell was his name on the show? But he was a homosexual as well on the show. And they, of course, they did a bunch of episodes about that and all this and that.
And Roseanne's daughter in real life is a lesbian.
That's true. Yeah, Darlene from the show. What is her name too? Melissa.
I don't know about that, but I'm trying to think of what else she's been in recently.
She had some cameos in The Big Bang Theory. In the first maybe season or two, she played Leonard's on again, off again girlfriend. She played cello with him. She worked at the same school he works at. Do you watch Big Bang Theory?
Nope.
It's a good show. You'd like it. The recent episodes suck, but the first 3 or 4 seasons were really good. Really funny. She was in that. She's on The View. I don't know if she's still on The View, but she was on there for a few years. If not The View, then a View-like TV show, like a morning talk show featuring 4 women, panel, that sort of thing. But I'm pretty sure The View.
I bet she would have gotten along well with Raven.
Yeah, she's a dyke too, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a bad word. Shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say dyke.
Nope. No,
don't be retarded. Don't call people dykes.
No, can't say dykes. Can't even say lesbians. It's women in comfortable shoes.
That's awesome. I never heard that one before.
That was courtesy of Robin Williams.
Oh, really?
Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh, okay. You know what? I just watched that recently. I didn't watch the whole movie. We were talking about Robin Williams in a previous podcast. We did our nice little sort of tribute, I guess you could say.
Because we didn't get it together in time to celebrate we
literally just started talking about it on recording. It was like, well,
we didn't have a chance to do a memorial podcast on the 2nd anniversary of his passing.
When is the anniversary of his passing?
I believe it's August 10th. It's the 10th or 11th.
Come next summer, if we're still doing podcasts, we should do a Robin Williams because he is
one of my
all-time
paracord
favorite
bracelet I made.
There you go.
So that way nobody can see it.
Good Morning Vietnam, we were mentioning a second ago. We talked about that on a podcast, and literally the next day was a Sunday. I was sitting around the house. I was like doing laundry or something, and I have my tablet, and I have Comcast on my tablet, so I can watch it anywhere in the house. And I'm just flipping through the channels real quick, like waiting for clothes to dry, and I see Good Morning Vietnam, and it was probably about halfway over. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. It's probably been 5 years since I've watched it. And I turned it on, and when I turned it on, it was right the very first day that he was on the radio was when they started, and he's going through his whole shtick. And they show like Forrest Whitaker and all the other characters that are in the room are just cracking up so hard. And dude, it's so funny.
It is. Dan the Man Levitan.
That movie is so funny. And then his superior comes in and just chews his ass. That's not very funny. It's like, dude, are you fucking stupid? That was hilarious.
Happy weather.
Oh yeah. And then right after that, another Robin Williams movie came on. Hook came on. So I sat and I watched almost that whole movie, and that was another one we were talking about.
That was a movie whenever I saw that last, that was very depressing to watch.
Yeah, it's I guess so. I don't really see it as depressing. I don't know.
It had been probably about at least 5 years since I had seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's so good. And the thing I love about that movie is everybody's good in that movie. The kids are good.
Or the kid.
The kid. Well,
he played the kid in Dick Tracy. That was his character's name.
The kid? Really?
That's literally his name in the movie.
That's with Warren Beatty, right?
Yeah.
He plays Dick
Warren
Tracy.
Beatty, Madonna.
That's right,
Al Pacino.
I haven't. Yeah, he was he had his face was all disfigured and stuff in it, wasn't he? Al Pacino.
No, he had prosthetics and all that.
So, yeah, well, obviously, yeah, that's for the character he played. I never watched that whole movie. I might have seen it. I recognize it. If it's on TV, I know that's what it is.
Whenever it came out.
Really? Because that movie came out in 1988 or 89.
Yeah, I was young.
You had to have been really young.
Yeah, because I think we went to see the movie. We came back and we went to Al's Pizza in Chippewa, and we came across my grandfather. And I think my grandmother, or my mom's mom, got me the Dick Tracy looking like fedora.
Yeah.
And my mom made me a bathrobe that looked like Dick Tracy's trench coat.
Oh, nice. Was it it's yellow, right?
And yellowish.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that movie. And I'm not a comic book guy at all, but that was a comic, obviously.
I used to have the Dick Tracy wristwatch.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. What was special about it? Anything? Or just
I had a little light on there, a little button. It's like, calling Dick Tracy. Come in, Dick Tracy.
That's cool. Now, the premise of that was he was a detective, right?
Yeah.
And then, weren't all the mobsters, severely disfigured?
Or they would have some kind of physical Something about them would match their look. Like Flat Top had a flat head.
Sure.
Or flat hair.
Which is probably why they would call him Flat Top.
There's another one called Lips. He just had really big lips.
Huh. Yeah, I'll have to go back and watch that movie.
Dirty lips.
Was it a good
You
movie?
need a bath. I think actually they panned it, but I think that's coming from Rotten Tomatoes, and you know how you and Joe are just like, oh, you don't want to Rotten Tomatoes, that's not.
I will correct you right there. Joe is very much against Rotten Tomatoes, and I'll explain why in a minute. Has he ever explained to you why he's against Rotten Tomatoes?
No, we had mentioned this briefly on the last podcast with the three of us.
We'll talk about that in a second. I have nothing against Rotten Tomatoes until Joe started talking to me about it. And now I'm a little skeptical, but I do feel that on most movies that aren't like highly critical movies, and by highly critical I mean superhero movies, comic book movies, movies that are based on previous iterations, like something that's from a book or from a previous movie or comic or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that I think that their reviews are usually off. But if you go and you read a review on Titanic or Avatar or, like RoboCop or something like that, something that stands by itself on its own, then I think the reviews are more accurate.
Oh, no, I don't think they're satisfied with anything, or they like anything.
They love some stuff. I mean, what was I watching the other day, and it had like a 99% fresh. It was ridiculous. Oh, it was
I think the highest I've ever
it was
seen is like
Schindler's
the
List.
80s.
It was Schindler's List, yeah.
That's true.
Obviously, that's one of the greatest movies of all time. It was on
Steven
DVD.
Spielberg, John Williams.
And just wonderful actors, too. I mean, Liam Neeson.
I love Liam Neeson. He's a great actor.
What the hell's his name? He played Voldemort. Ray Fiennes was
Ralph
in that.
Fiennes.
It's spelled Ralph, but it's pronounced Ray.
Whatever.
Yeah, I found that out by watching the Harry Potter DVD extras. They kept calling him Ray. And I'm like, is that his nickname or whatever? And then I looked it up, and because he's from Europe somewhere, and like Hungarian maybe, or perhaps, or something. But his name is spelled Ralph, but it's pronounced Ray. Weird, huh? So to get back to the Rotten Tomatoes thing, the reason Joe hates it so much, and it makes a lot of sense. Marvel Comics, okay? Marvel's owned by Disney now. Disney has all the rights to the movies. They're the ones that are pumping them out. And that's why these movies are usually so good and why these special effects are so great, the budgets are high, all that stuff. Disney, somewhere down the line, has a huge stake in Rotten Tomatoes. So if you get on Rotten Tomatoes and you start looking up reviews for the Marvel movies, I'm talking Spider-Man, X-Men, Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, which everybody says that movie's like the best of all these superhero movies. I have not seen it, but I believe it. If Joe says it's great, I believe it's great because Joe and I have the same tastes.
In men.
In men and women and sandwiches. But
In that order.
Anyway, all of every one of the Marvel movies has a very high fresh rating on there. All of the DC comic movies, Batman's, Superman's, a couple other ones, have low ratings.
I thought Superman was Marvel.
No. Superman is DC.
No, that's an inside joke. Don't worry, everybody.
If you want to know about that joke, go back to I think it's episode 4 where the three of us sat around and we talk about that.
That was the first one of the three of us sat down to.
Yeah, I want to say that was episode 4 of my podcast, Jeff Finch Experiment.
The Force Continues.
At Finch Podcast.
Oh, wait, no. That's Star Wars. Never mind.
Yeah. Not the Force Continues, the Force Awakens.
Whatever.
But anyway, so I think you can catch the gist of it. Marvel is direct competition to DC Comics. Therefore, their movies are directly competing because Marvel and DC are not run by the same company, which is Disney. Disney owns Marvel. They also have a stake somewhere down the line. They don't directly own Rotten Tomatoes, but they have a big stake in them somehow. So they think that Joe seems to think that Disney is rigging, quote, air quote, rigging the ratings to reflect poorly on DC movies in order to get people to want to pay more attention to Marvel and less attention to DC.
Oh, excuse me. I'm allergic to bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 100% either.
Who knows?
I have not researched it, but I will say this. Joe is not the kind of guy to just say, this is how it is. He reads stuff. He watches stuff on YouTube. He finds us. And when it comes to comics, he's all over it. He knows his shit. So I think there's a shred of truth to it, and it certainly makes sense because, all companies,
How much money is Disney worth?
Many billions.
Yes.
Disney is probably worth more than most companies in America. No, Disney is definitely worth more than most companies in America. I mean, the only companies that probably have more money than Disney would be maybe Walmart, who Walmart is the biggest the biggest company in the world.
Amazon.
Amazon is massive.
Amazon is worth more money than Walmart.
Really?
Yes.
That must be a pretty recent thing.
Well, you know why? From what I heard, is because Amazon sells sex toys.
That would make sense. They probably sell pornographic DVDs and stuff too.
I really hope not used.
Most likely used. I don't know if they do or not. But then again,
They were used starting at 24-inch double ender.
the thing to think about though with that, and this is completely off subject.
Well, I heard this on it was a news blooper. It says like, oh, well, you know why Amazon is worth because they sell sex toys. I have a friend who works in the warehouse.
That could very well be possible. Sex is a huge business.
Porn is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Easily. And what's crazy about porn, and this kind of ties in what we're just talking about with Amazon, people don't really buy porn DVDs anymore because it's all free on the internet. I mean, there are a lot of subscriptions that you can buy of certain websites. If you like a certain lady or a certain guy, they'll have their own website. You can buy a subscription to their shit, and you get all of their movies for free to download or to stream. But the porn industry is still somehow raking in a ton of cash, even without sales anymore. A lot of it's probably ads, because porn sites have a lot of ads, and they get a lot of clicks because it's porn, and that's what everybody wants to see.
And I'm not really sure why you would want to buy porn DVD. I don't think you would want to see like a blooper reel.
That's true. But another thing,
there have been some interesting ones.
DVDs are just, I mean, it's obviously it's near dead technology. I mean, people just aren't buying DVD and Blu-ray very much anymore of anything, movies either. I mean, when you can just download it or stream it on your computer, especially if it's free, it's so much easier. And you don't have to pop in a DVD. You don't have to turn on your TV and turn on a player and, do everything you got to do, to get your fix.
Rub one off.
Yeah, to do that, all you got to do is just take your phone out of your pocket, go to xnxs.com or YouPorn or one of these sites, and bam, you're there, and whatever you want, and I mean whatever you want is on there. Outside of like illegal shit, like, obviously child porn and bestiality, that stuff's illegal, but
I don't think bestiality is illegal.
I think it is illegal. I'm pretty sure that websites in America aren't supposed to have it on there, and I don't know why I know this. Believe me, I didn't research it or anything. I saw it on like the Chive.
Maybe that's what
like
those illegal Mexican immigrants are bringing in, bestiality porn.
Donkey shows. Have you ever been to a donkey show? You just go and you think that it's a woman fucking a donkey, and then you go there and it's a woman fucking a donkey. 40-Year-Old Virgin. You ever see that movie?
Long time ago.
Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorites, man. It is so funny. I remember the first time I watched that movie, I laughed my ass off.
Whenever he's actually getting his body waxed, that is his real hair.
Yes, it is. And that's why it made that scene one of the funniest in the movie, when he starts screaming, you son of a bitch, and God damn it. He's freaking out. Kelly Clarkson! It's so good. And what's funny about that, when you watch that scene, the three guys that are with him, which is Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd, and then I don't know the black gentleman's name. He's not real popular like those guys.
Oh,
but
black gentleman, huh?
The black gentleman, yeah. Well, he's a gentleman.
Well, in order not to offend anybody, he's going to call him a black gentleman.
Yes, I don't want to offend anybody, but yeah, you can actually see them. They are cracking the hell up on that scene, and it's completely.
Well, even the woman that's doing the waxing, even she's like.
Yeah, she's cracking
scared.
up too.
And I think she's also half scared too.
What's funny is the black guy in that was like during the scene, he like acts like he's getting sick and walks out of the room. He had to do that because he was laughing so hard he couldn't control himself. So he's like, "Oh, I gotta go. I can't watch this," and he walks out during the scene, and that's because they were actually yanking Steve Carell's chest hair out with wax, and it was so funny. And I forget why I brought up that movie. Why did I bring up that movie?
Who knows?
I forget. The Seth Rogen quote, yeah. They talk about the woman fucking the donkey.
Digression.
Yeah. Oh, don't bump the mic, man.
Oh, look who's talking. You're spiking anyway.
I'm allowed to spike. You know what?
Shit.
It sounds like it's spiking, but it really isn't. What's weird with my recorder is my recorder records and monitors a lot, quote, hotter than it actually lays down to the track. You'll notice it. Whenever we go back and listen to it, you'll realize what I mean. Like, we can hear a lot of background stuff right now. Like, you can hear like a hiss in the background right now. It's very slight, but it's there. You won't hear it at all on the recording. Well, that'll come through. Most likely that'll come through. If I had my headphones plugged directly into my mixer, then we would be hearing what we're hearing like as the recording is. But I like to hear it from the recorder through the monitor because then I can adjust the levels on the recorder itself.
It's just his way of saying he can't do anything wrong.
No, that's not true. I can do plenty wrong. I just like to avoid wrong things from happening when it comes to these recordings because usually when we sit down and talk, we have so much fun doing it and the product turns out so good. I don't want to lose that. So that's why I spend the extra time at the beginning of every session checking the levels, even though, I might not touch anything. Let's say you came back tomorrow and we recorded and I didn't touch nothing. I'm still going to sit down and make sure all the adjustments are good.
Or I lose track of what I'm doing, and next thing I know, my face is about a foot away from the microphone.
Yeah,
I'm over here. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I do that.
Here.
I do that sometimes too. Not so much when I'm recording in my basement because I have the mic sitting directly in front of me, and I have the condenser mic, so I can move a little to the side, and it won't lose a lot of the quality. Whereas you have your microphone's what's called a dynamic mic. You kind of have to be within like a cone in front of it for it to pick you up. So like when you just leaned over a minute ago, you were only maybe another foot away from the mic, but it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
If I lean a foot to my left, it's slightly noticeable, but you can still hear me pretty well.
Yeah,
but
I can hear a little bit more towards my right whenever you're facing.
Well, a lot of that too is probably because you can hear me without the mics. You can hear me straight into your ears, and it's to your side. But with this condenser mic, if I get real close, it really picks up. So that's why I got to sit at like a foot away from it because this thing is quite sensitive. It's a good mic though. I only paid $30 for this microphone, brand new. I paid twice as much for that one there. Now that's a great mic, and that is the highest reviewed dynamic mic. USB mic on the internet, the highest by far.
And he's pointing to the microphone I'm using.
Yeah, and I let you use that mic because I think I project louder than you do when I speak, and I think that mic picks you up a lot better than this one would. Not because I'm louder, but because of the tone of your voice. You just have like a different tone than I have.
My voice is higher pitched.
No, it's not that.
Yes, it is.
Maybe it is now, Mickey Mouse. Oh boy.
Hey, little buddy.
But yeah, that microphone just seems to work well for you. I don't know why. But you do kind of have to be on it. And it's anybody, you have to be on it. That being said, what's weird is if I hook that mic up and I have two people sitting by it, it picks up really well. I mean, that's a mic you always use when it's you and Joe sitting together talking with me. If I set this one up for some reason...
Yeah, all those times whenever I'm sitting on Joe's lap.
Yeah, when you're sitting on his lap, right, and he's poking you with his little Joe stick, and I mean little Joe stick.
His goatee tickles too much, though.
Well, tell him to quit eating your butthole.
Sit on my face and tell me that you love me. I'll sit in your face and tell you I love you too. I love to hear you oralize when in between your thighs. You blow me away. Sorry about that.
That was completely necessary.
Oh, Terry Jones just diagnosed. One of the members of Monty Python was just diagnosed with dementia.
I saw that on
and
Facebook.
Part of
yeah.
He's developing aphasia, which is affecting his speech. So he's not able to do any more interviews anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Aphasia, that's called?
Aphasia, yeah.
I've never heard of that. Do you know anything about it? Or?
I think it affects the forming of words, I believe. I don't know exactly, but I think it was one of the beginning phases of
dementia.
Of causing his dementia. Because dementia is also what Angus Young was diagnosed with. That's why he had to be replaced.
You mean not Angus Young. You mean
Malcolm.
Malcolm Young. Yeah, yes. I was going to say Angus is still playing. That's real interesting. And speaking of like those sort of diseases, they just maybe a year or so ago they released a movie about Stephen Hawking, and they had this actor playing his part, and it was really good. I think it's called The Theory of Everything, which is the name of his book he released in the 80s. That was the one with the Big Bang Theory and all that stuff. The theory, not the TV show. But it was really good, and it kind of delved into what you're talking about. It was a profile of his life, but they dug deep into the ALS, which is what he has, also known as
Lou Gehrig's disease.
Lou Gehrig's disease. That's what Stephen Hawking has, and that's why...
Hey, Lou, you got a disease with a name written all over it.
Oh, yeah. So,
I think it was Dennis Leary.
Was that Dennis Leary?
Yeah, it's Dennis Leary, No Cure for Cancer.
There you go. I was watching that movie, and I mean, it's well done. The actor is good, plays Stephen Hawking, and it's a real shame to see how he declined. And it got me thinking, though, like
I think he lost the ability to walk by the time he was like 25.
He was
even whenever he got married, he was with a cane.
Yes, he had developed that in college. Okay, and then he went on to be a college professor. I don't remember what school. actually, it might have been like Oxford. It was a big English school, so it might have been Oxford or Cambridge or one of those.
No, no, was he?
Because he's British.
He is British? Okay.
You wouldn't know because you think of his voice, all you hear is that computer. You know, you don't think of him as being British.
Hello, this is Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd like to leave a message? It's like, no, this is Stephen Hawking. Robin Williams.
There you go. So anyway, basically, yeah, like the reason he figured out that he had a problem was he was teaching for a couple years at the school, and I now that I think about it, I think it was Oxford. He was teaching. He was a professor. This was like the early to mid '60s, I want to say. And he started becoming clumsy, and people noticed it and said, hey, you know, you've been tripping and falling and running into stuff a lot. And he went to the doctor, and they pretty much diagnosed him with ALS. And he declined really quickly at first, and then it slowed way down. He's like 70 years old or close to 70.
Yeah, he is way up there.
You wouldn't know it to look at him. I mean, he looks old, but he doesn't look like he's 70 years old.
Yeah.
And that's really strange considering his condition. And, you know, they profiled a lot on that movie about, like, you know, how he came about with the technology that he has hooked up to his wheelchair and how he's able to control it. It used to be he can control it with finger taps, but now he can't move his fingers, so now it's eye blinks. So he has a thing that reads...
Well, Jason Becker, the guitarist.
Jason Becker.
Yeah.
That name
he was
doesn't sound familiar.
like an 80s glam, or 80s rocker or whatever.
Did he have his own band, or was he like in it? Was he like Malmsteen or Vi or
I
one
think
of
it
those
was
guys?
it was like
a virtuoso.
But even nowadays, he has ALS and he can't move anything, and that's how he composes
By blinking his eyes.
Blinking, yeah. His actually it was a system. It was developed by his dad, I think. Was
Really?
yeah. It's like each letter of the alphabet would be like a different position of his eye.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it works. Like, I'm a little surprised I've never heard of that guy. If he's a great guitar player,
I read it on
an
it's an episode of Guitar World years ago.
An issue, you mean? Like a magazine, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of Guitar World, I found all my back issues of Guitar World at my parents' house the other day. And Guitar One. I'm going to have to bring them home and actually go through them because they're all like late 90s issues. But
I started in 98.
to get back to the...
Ball with the ball.
That's about the... Yeah, I had that one, yeah.
So I had Motley Crue on the cover, I think.
I don't remember. Honestly, don't remember.
I gave all the bifold posters. I remember giving them to Dave Feaster. Faux pas. I said the last name.
Yeah, we'll cut that out. Anyway, I just wanted to get back to finish up my Stephen Hawking thing. As I was watching that movie, and I was thinking about him and that disease, and let's face it, his wheelchair and his disease is the reason everybody remembers. It's the reason that the public knows him. Okay, he's a very recognizable guy. When you read up about top physicians of the 20th century, his name usually doesn't come up. Now, he's obviously a genius. He's a mathematical whiz. He's very smart. He's had TV shows. He's great. He wrote a very popular book. But they don't consider him to be one of the top physicists of the 20th century. Obviously, Einstein's number one. After that, I mean, I can't name any other physicists of the 20th century except for him. Maybe I don't know if Neil deGrasse Tyson is considered a physicist. He's more of a cosmologist, cosmetology, not cosmetology. I think cosmology. I think that's what it is.
I think cosmology.
Cosmology.
Cosmetology. I think
and
it's
astronomy and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all like fashion and makeup and all that.
Yeah. Now, who did you say? Niels Bohr?
Niels Bohr.
The name sounds familiar. Who is he?
I believe he's Danish. It's around like
what did he do? Like, what's his thing?
Physics.
Obviously.
I believe so.
But was there something that he came with or created? Did he have something to do with, like, did you say the World War? Was he part of the war?
Second World War.
Okay, so
I think
he probably had something to do with nuclear or rocket science.
I think the Nazis tried to get him to work with them on the nuclear.
Is he the guy that came to America and ended up working on the nuclear program here?
No, you're thinking of
Einstein was, but there was another one.
No, he did that.
Einstein defected between the wars, like before World War II broke out. He defected.
That's whenever they started persecuting
Jews. He left, right? I just said left, right, opposites. But there was another one. There was another guy who was working for the German government, and I want to say
Werner von Braun, but
Braun.
Well, that was after the war.
He defected after the war.
Well, he surrendered to he and a bunch of his scientists surrendered to the Americans because you're more likely to get treated better than going over to the Russians, because everybody from the German military wanted to surrender to the British or the
Yeah.
Americans, not the Russians.
Understood, because the Russians probably would have killed them.
Yeah, because that's one of the main reasons why the Russians were so into the Nuremberg trials. It's like, okay, you can do whatever you want with the trials because we had all the big shots.
Yeah.
We had all the big guys. They got a handful, whatever. That's because everyone
would rather have been in our custody
yeah.
as opposed to
the Russians.
So they preferred the West to the East, basically.
Yes.
I could see why they wanted to do that, because once again, Joseph Stalin was thirsty for blood, and he was batshit crazy. And I'm sure he probably would have never had any real trial. He probably would have just murdered all those guys.
No, he probably just never would have heard from them again. They either would have been sent up to Siberia, or he probably would have.
Was von Braun the rocket scientist? Because there was
He's the one that developed the V2 rocket.
Yes, and then he eventually worked on the Saturn rocket, and we wouldn't have never went to the moon if it wasn't for him.
We never would have had NASA.
You're probably right. That's right. That's the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Not Niels, but von Braun. Excuse me. Okay, so there's four physicists I've heard of, and what my point was with Stephen Hawking once again. Yes, his theories are solid or are very popular, but if it wasn't for the wheelchair and his disability, he probably would have never been nearly as famous. Just disability, period. We would have never known who he was. He would have been lost to science, really. And that's kind of a shame. Like,
He'd probably be lost in the handicap section.
Oh, that's not cool. Okay, that's funny.
Use my poor mother's handicap sticker and put glow sticks on my wheelchair after I had my accident for a concert.
But technically, you were handicapped, so it worked out. It wasn't like we were gaining the system.
Might have needed it.
We had it, and since we went into the concert, we had the handicap sticker.
And we
might as well have taken advantage of it. Right. We weren't breaking the law. We weren't being dishonest or unethical.
Which we totally are.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are unethical people, but, that's neither here nor there. All right, Nick. Well, on that note, I say we go ahead and wrap this one up. We've been talking for a while now, and I think we've still got plenty to talk about, would you say? So I guess we'll just split this up into 2 parts. What do you think? Yeah? Okay. Sounds good. All right, man. This is fun. Had a good time. Everybody listening, please make sure you hit that subscribe button there on YouTube. Also, please like this video. Also, check me out on Twitter @Finch Podcast, as well as Facebook. So have a great night, guys. Thank you.